What's a weird little law rule your younger self made up that you still follow for no good reason? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. The last bite of food has to be the perfect combination of all the ingredients. This is most important for pizza. We'll eat the crust second to last and move toppings around to create a perfect last bite in salads. Wraps are a huge pain because, without planning, I end on the butt of the wrap with some lettuce and watery mayo folded in it. Unacceptable. Story 2. Future me. No matter what decision I am faced with in the moment, I do the extra work for future me. I always forget about it. Then someday in the future, I'm involved in something similar. I go look to get the task done, and there are all my tools, set up perfectly by past me. I love it. Story 3. If a loved one goes in the hospital, they get a stuffed animal. This comes from a sister whose daughter was in the NICU neonatal intensive care unit when she was born, and the number of children who had no loved ones to care broke my heart, so that Christmas every single baby in the NICU got a stuffed animal. Since then, it's been known as my law. I bought a lot of stuffed animals in the last 35 years. I still have the one I got from my father the last time he was in the hospital, the visit he never came home from. Story 4. I wish I still followed this one. When I was younger, I had a rule that anytime I entered my bedroom, I would do 20 push-ups. Some days I would do over 100. Other days I just did 40. But at least I was going up the stairs and doing a few push-ups. Story 5. If I wake up in the middle of the night to pick at water, etc., I will not look at the time because I'll get anxious and have issues going back to sleep. I don't open my eyes when going to sleep after I yawn the first time. It's fairly obvious I have long-term issues with getting enough sleep. Story 6. If there are two switches that control a light, there must be a designated default switch. The switch that always must truly reflect the status of the light up is on, down is off. I will never use the second switch because that would make the default switch wrong. If my kids use the second switch, I have to go back and make it right. Story 7. When traveling, I never eat at a restaurant that can be found in my hometown. Always go local. Edit guys, obviously going to a McDonald's in India or China counts as go local because their menu's different than here. I just meant I'm not going to travel from the US to Italy or Turkey and get a Whopper or go to Denny's. I also do this when traveling in between states or even in cities outside my normal drive. Content story 8. Always keep a light on so I can find my way home. It was in a novel I read a long time ago. The tradition was that if a spirit was killed wrongly, by keeping a light on in the home, the spirit could at least find its way back home and find peace. So, I always have at least a single light on in the house. 247. Story 9. Not a rule I made up, but my parents did. Try at least 3 bites of something before you decide you don't like it. I credit this with helping me come to terms with different food textures and flavors, and for getting me to eat my veggies. I still may not like cauliflower, but I'll eat some anyway to maybe continue training my palate or trick it into liking it. So far, it hasn't worked. Story 10. Can never have too many pens or pencils. In middle school through college, I would keep a wad of them in my pocket because there was always someone who needed one, and I'd pull one out of my pocket. Even now, I probably have enough pens and pencils to last me 5 years or more. Story 11. When I was a kid, I made this weird rule that I'd never step on cracks in the sidewalk if I was wearing new shoes. Totally made up the idea that it would waste the look of new footwear. Embarrassingly, I still catch myself doing this little sidewalk dance when I'm wearing brand new kicks, even though I know it's completely ridiculous. Story 12. I always say thank you to machines if they're doing a task, like when the printer prints or my computer downloads a game, or when we got my car unstuck from the ice, or when I ask Google a question. Logically, I know they aren't sapient, but better to err on the sake of caution. Wouldn't want to hurt their feelings. Story 13. If I found my mind wandering and thinking about something random, I try and trace my thought process back to how I got there. It took me till I was an adult to get it, but I think I was coming up with ways to try and manage my undiagnosed ADHD and potential autism. It helped me a lot when trying to study or when in class when growing up. Story 14. Don't express anger aggressively to anyone with more power than you unless absolutely necessary to protect yourself. I've mastered the art of subtly instructing people that they are assholes and how to fix it. It's still useful. People may not care if you get angry at their behavior. If they think that they themselves might have been an asshole, increases the likelihood you'll get what you want. Story 15. I never wish death on anybody. I had a hard time dealing with my grandmother dying, and death impacts more than whoever you wish it on. That being said, there are some people who are having such a negative impact on the world that them no longer being here would be a positive for so many people it's hard not to. I still believe it's wrong. Story 16. Probably more of a habit, but always have some blanket wrapped around my upper body when sleeping. I randomly decided to do it one night when I was 5, and I've been doing it every night since. Even during hot summer nights, I need something wrapped around my shoulders head, otherwise I can't sleep unless truly exhausted. Story 17. If I am at a store for non-essential goods, e.g., clothing, tchotchkes, or trinkets that I could absolutely live without, I'll only go up to the register to make the purchase if I can find 2 items in the store, 2 of the same item, or 2 different items that I want to buy. If I only find 1 item I like, I'll put that item back on the shelf. I think I picked up the habit years ago as a young adult from my local TJ Maxx because the checkout line can get outrageously long. Buying 2 items would make it worth waiting in line, but only buying 1 item made it such that it wasn't worth the wait. Now I just apply that rule naturally when on trips or out locally going window wishing. Story 18. I'm out of toilet paper if there's less than a dozen rolls left. Took a shit at a friend's house and they didn't have any TP. Had to wipe my ass with a paper towel. I vowed I'd never run out of TP again. I even keep a couple rolls in my desk at work. It paid off during that 2020 TP shortage. Stores were out of stock, but I never ran out. I already had a 6-8 month supply. LMAO. Story 19. I avoid butter unless I am baking, and it is absolutely essential. When I was young, my parents got divorced, and my mother got involved with a corpulent, profanity-spewing redneck who slathered enormous amounts of butter on everything. He'd eat about 2 sticks of butter a day. The very first time I encountered this person, I had silently vowed to myself, I will not end up like that. Story 20. Pray for roadkill. I'm agnostic, but whenever I see something dead by the side of the road, I say a quick prayer for peace for them and their distraught owners. It's habitual at this point, but it's silent and in my head and hurts nothing. Maybe even does some good. Story 21. I count the amount of strokes on each section of my teeth as I'm brushing them. I go 8 up and down motions per section, unless my teeth feel really gritty. Can't stop, won't stop. Also, if I buy a big bag of chips and eat all of them in one sitting, save for a handful at the bottom of the bag, then I've practiced self-control. Story 22. Being secretive about my bank card's PIN is useless if somebody was reading my mind. I never believed in mind reading, nor do I now. But this thought just randomly popped into my head one day when I was withdrawing from an ATM with my new bank card. So just for shits and giggles, I started thinking of my old card's PIN when entering my new ones. It has been almost 20 years since, and I am still doing it to this day. It's such a habit that I only enter my number by muscle memory alone. If you were to ask me my current PIN, I would actually have to think really hard about it for a moment before being able to answer correctly. Story 23. I cannot go into the pool, ocean, etc. without water shoes. I genuinely feel sick and nauseous from the sensation on my feet. It's disgusting lol. As a kid, if I didn't have them at camp, I resulted to just staying in one area and standing on a singular toe. Yes, I have OCD. Story 24. Smarties UK ones, not the US sugar pills. Open the packet, sort the colors. Start at the color with the less number of that color, then in order. But keep the green ones until the end, regardless of how many of those there are. Story 25. I put clothing on in priority order if there was an emergency requiring immediate exit. Example underwear. First cause I can cover my chest easier. Then bra, so at least my intimates are covered. Then pants because it's easier to run. Then shirt, IDK. I clearly have anxiety, LOL. Story 26. I always finish my water no matter what. When I was a child, I was deeply impacted by learning there are people who either don't have water or very tainted water. So I made a promise to myself that I would never waste water again. I still have that same mindset, but it's mostly just out of habit these days. Story 27. When I was younger, I would walk to school. I would always try to beat a car to a certain random spot. For example, if I heard a car way behind me traveling my way, I would think, make it to the oak tree before the car does. I would also try to do something and make it back to the microwave before it hit 0. Things like do a lap around the house or pour a glass of milk and make it back to touch the microwave before it goes off. I rarely do these things now, but when the thought goes through my head, I'll give a shot for old time's sake. Story 28. If I'm leaving a room doing things around the house, I always bring my drink back to the kitchen. Also, if I'm leaving the room for any amount of time longer than a few minutes, I will put anything breakable away, computer, instruments, etc. I grew up in a very packed and busy house, and if you left anything out, there was a great chance of it getting broken or a drink being spilled. There are no young children running around my house, and my roommate wouldn't go in my room, LMAO, so I guess there's really no reason to be that strict now, but I just can't not do it. Story 29. If I'm walking into a bathroom and I hear another stall opening, I'll run into a stall before they come out. I've been doing it since I was like 4, and I have no clue why the idea of someone seeing me in the bathroom freaks me out. If they're already out of the stall, I'm totally chill, or if they follow me into the room, but if they're behind the door and suddenly open it, I gotta zoom. Story 30. Sneeze as loud as I can every time. A friend and I made a deal back in primary school to do it. I don't know why. Kids are weird, and I have never not done it since. Drives my boyfriend insane. I must ask that friend if she even remembers it, or if I've been doing it alone for all these years. I also have no idea how people sneeze really quietly. I just can't seem to fathom going about it differently than I do. Story 31. Never get a driver's license so you never have to live somewhere you'd need a car. I have always lived in the most walkable places and prefer to keep it that way. Next month, I am moving above a subway station entrance that has 3 grocery stores downstairs and is walking distance to both Midtown and downtown. If I suddenly had to move to a suburb, I'd lose my mind. Story 32. This may seem obvious, but I always try to be there for someone's birthday event, even if it's not expected. Even if you're not that close. It's a day when being absent might not be noticed, but being present can mean so much learned from experience. Story 33. When I was young, I read somewhere that Romans used to always leave a place, starting with the right foot. I adapted it to stairs. Since then, I have to get on my right foot when I finish using a set of stairs, to the point where I switch feet mid-walk if I sense I'm not landing on my right foot at arrival, or remember which foot to begin with if that's a stair I use often. My ex-husband would make fun of me to no end because of that. Story 34. I don't drink or smoke or do. I am neither religious or ever had an addiction or health problems. I decided in my early 20s to never do either. Never liked the taste of alcohol, hate drunk people, and never cared for the smell of cigarettes. So why ever try one of those disgusting cancer sticks? And tried a couple, hated it. I am happy without it, but other people seem to be extremely bothered by it and try every given opportunity to convince me to consume. Why? No means no, Kevin. Story 35. I try never to lie. Lying would often be convenient, but even if it definitely is more than telling the truth, I try to avoid it the best I can, with very few people or situations being the exception. However, I lie a shit ton for comedic purpose, but then tell the truth after a good laugh or to cause it. Story 36, not a weird law or rule, but a weird thing I do. When I was a kid, I learned that sonar works by sending a ping out, it bouncing off of an object like the ocean floor, and the length of time it took to ping back to you determined the depth. So I started pinging out loud to myself to see how deep I could conceptualize the ocean. The longest I've gone is 3 years. It's fun for me, BC I forget, and when I remember, I'm like, ping, damn, that's a deep ocean. Hello, ma'am, you. Story 37. If I had to get up or stand while paying, I don't need to tip. I never understood, especially food pickup places. Yes, maybe the guys and ladies in the back packed my food. Why do I need to tip for a to-go order that was packed up? I paid for the food already, saving my money and time from ordering delivery. Story 38. I live in an old house with many defunct light switches. If I by mistake flick a switch that doesn't work, I must flip it back, just in case it actually did something somewhere. Like I might be just switched off Jerry Mouse's lighting for his sardine bedroom. You never know. Story 39. If I'm buying a gift for a child's birthday party, the gift is books. Every single time. I don't care if they love reading or not. Every kid benefits from having more books available to them. This rule also applies to baby showers in addition to a gift from the registry. Story 40. I'm not as strict with my rules since I've been medicated for ADHD, but for most of my life, I couldn't start or end a task at a random time. It had to be a time that ends in 5 or 0. If it's a really big task, it might even move to 00 status on the hour. Oh, no, I vagued out and it's 102. Guess I'm starting that task at 1100. This is generally only within my own home. Once I step out the door, I am beholden to the rules and schedules of others, which is actually a nice little treat to give my brain a break. Story 41. When walking on a sidewalk, I can't walk over the gap between each concrete tile, and if I step over it with one foot, the other foot must also step over the next gap. Otherwise, it's not even. It makes absolutely no sense. Story 42. My rule is understand the physics before doing something. In 5th grade, the concept of physics clicked for me. The fundamental forces of nature, how things move, behave, cause and effect. In its most simplistic explanation, it's considering through start to finish what actions will cause, and then what happens after that, and so on. A side almost sister rule was what's a person's motivation? It's when I realized that my friends were doing things for ulterior motives. People are not what they seem on the outside. Story 43. If I don't want to do something, and I start counting to 3, I have to do that thing. This has all sorts of applications, like telling someone how I feel even though conflict is scary, or forcing myself to get out of the car to go into a job interview, or wipe a wound even though it's going to sting. I don't start counting unless I'm serious, but if I do, I always do that thing. It's sort of like my brain telling itself, this is happening, and you have 3 seconds to get on board. Story 44. If I eat cereal with marshmallows, there must be a marshmallow in the last bite. Same for spaghetti with meatballs. Must be a meatball in the final bite. Have to evenly distribute them so there is enough left for the last bite. Story 45. I have a rule that absolutely any person asking for money on the street gets money provided I'm able to give it. I never want to be in a position where I'm willing to help one person but not another, or judging whether someone deserves it. You need money? Do I have money? You get money. Are some people going to use it for questionable shit? Yeah, probably. But more than likely, someone's just going to get a sandwich. Story 46. Food gets eaten in reverse favorite order. X steak. Brussels sprouts, mashed potatoes, eat Brussels sprouts, then potatoes, then steak. Save the best for last. Exception is fast food French fries. They must get eaten first because lukewarm fries are icky, even if the fries are better than the burger, sandwich, whatever. If the crust on a pizza is particularly meh, or the pizza itself is particularly good, then eat crust first, or even tear it off and use to dip in sauces. I used to actually open up stuffed crust pizza crust to take out the cheese, eat the crust, then the cheese, but I'm not that bad anymore. Just don't ask how I used to eat Schlotsky's sandwiches. Story 47, be honorable. Keep your word. Tell the truth. Not always easy, but I always wanted to be that person, and I am striving to be. I am in my 40s now. The exception to that rule is, yes, your baby is so cute. Not all babies are objectively cute, but they are all cute to their mothers, as it should be. And thank you for the lovely dinner. Somebody tried hard and it makes it lovely, even if it tastes like feet. No, I haven't tried. Story 48. I cannot take a shower unless it's light out. Once the sun sets, it'll have to wait until the next morning. I can also only take showers with a handheld shower head. I'm Jewish, and when I was young, there was a mini-series about the Holocaust. There was a moment when they focused on the shower heads in the gas chamber. Therefore, I associate wall-mounted shower heads with something terrible and have to be able to remove it from the wall, or I won't shower. Story 49. My best friend will not look at her fortune cookie fortune until after she has eaten the entire fortune cookie. She says if you read it before the cookie is gone, then you will only get bad luck. She also keeps every fortune she's ever gotten because throwing them out is also bad luck. She has done this as long as I've known her, 30 years, and she is not superstitious about anything else that I've seen. Story 50, that if something happens to one side of my body, it must happen to the other, or else I'll feel off for the whole day. If I step on a pebble with my left foot, then I must find a similar sized pebble but not the same one, and without stopping for my right foot to step on ASAP and in a similar position. Story 51, always save the best for last. Food, for example, that type of food that looks best or is a great mix is the last bite. If I eat a sandwich, I always eat the crust first, then either eat it in a circle or a rectangle. After I have been to the grocery store, I unpack everything on the kitchen table and inspect my haul. I never wanted anyone to help me as a child doing it, and I prefer doing it alone now too. Story 52. Dry your toothbrush after rinsing clean. Do it every single time you use it. I hate seeing toothbrushes with hunks of dried toothpaste foam and a puddle of gunk in the toothbrush holder. Your toothbrush will dry out completely a whole lot faster if it's not dripping wet when you put it back in the holder. Plus, the less time your toothbrush is wet is probably less of an opportunity for germs to grow. Story 53. I don't tell people about something I'm really looking forward to until after it happens because I was disappointed by unreliable people and situations so much growing up. I'm also pathologically incapable of making long-term plans. Story 54. If you leave the living room, you have lost all rights to the remote. If you give warning that you need a bathroom break, you have 30 seconds. I think me and my brother made this rule because we fought so much about who got to watch what on TV. Story 55. Never set foot on the drain in the shower. That's where the body buried under you can reach in and grab you. I used to think my childhood home had a dead body under the tub, and I was scared I would step on them if I got too close to the edge. Story 56. It isn't so much a rule, but from around age 8, there are times in my life when I pause myself, try and memorize the moment, really, truly take it in and give gratitude for it. The first time I remember doing it, I was 8 or 9, riding in the back of the car and watching the moon follow me home. Super bright and beautiful, thinking to myself, I need to remember how awesome this is. Story 57. Don't touch the glass. Open glass doors with the handles. Don't touch the glass display cases. Saw someone arm go through a glass door, but I think it's more of like, keep things clean. When you touch the glass, someone has to clean it. You could just not touch the glass. Story 58. Early is on time. On time is late, and late never happens. Was told this by a basketball coach when I was 12, because my brother and I were late by 5 minutes. We walked to practice and were messing around, so us and our whole team had to run 1 mile for every minute someone was late. To this day, I still get to work 20-30 minutes early, mostly because I have nothing else I do at home, or if there is a little bit of traffic, then I'm safe. Story 59. Whenever I have to replace toilet paper roll, I put it the other way, even in places where I am guest. I just can't resist my urge to annoy someone who goes after me. Also, especially while I am at relatives' house, I like to mix spoons, forks, and knives together in the cutlery drawer in the kitchen. Story 60, kind of relevant, but I have problems with calling my work colleagues who are physicians by their first names. For example, Dr. John Smith. I will always refer to him as Dr. Smith regardless, because my brain interprets that as their rightful title, and they haven't given me permission to address them so casually. That said, I've come across physicians who tell me to just call them first name, but I still end up calling them doctor last name by reflex and have to make a conscious effort to call them by their first name. Maybe my brain is just broken, but it is what it is. Story 61. Anything square rectangle shaped on the street drains, manhole covers, I don't know what stuff is. I'm not allowed to step on the thing or inside of any area between two of its parallel extended sides. It comes from those objects trying to shoot lasers at my younger superhero self. Story 62. If I'm licking my teeth, I have to lick every single one as ordered then in reverse so it's even. If my fingers touch, I have to continue from the two that touch and touch. Each finger, corresponding finger. If I'm walking and something scrapes my side, I have to walk into it backwards to undo it, kinda. Story 63. When I put on deodorant, I also make a cross with it across my chest. I think I had a reason for that when I was 14, but at 57, I don't know why I did do it. My wife asked me about a few weeks ago, and the best answer I could give was, it's just a thing. Story 64. I didn't make it up, but it stuck with me as an almost 40-year-old. Nickelodeon used to make a celebration out of every day. The last day of the month was Rabbit Rabbit Day because you were supposed to say Rabbit Rabbit as the first words of the month for good luck. So every first of the month, the first words out of my mouth are Rabbit Rabbit because of watching Nickelodeon as a young kid. Story 65. I was horribly bullied. When I was in junior high, I ended up taking out on my family, always yelling and screaming at everyone, especially my mom, and I would take out physical frustration. My younger brother, we are both in our 30s and have long since made up. My mom ended up writing a letter to me, and in it she wrote the words, "I'm your mother, there is no reason for you to tell at me like I am a dog." I don't want to sugarcoat how I was a real piece of shit. So much so my mom chooses not to remember me at that time. My siblings remember. After my mom read me the letter while crying, that was the moment I realized I didn't want to be an angry and bitter person in my mind. The bullies would have won since then. I rarely, if ever, raise my voice, and I always try to take a more gentle approach when I'm in an argument or upset. Story 66. I'm terrified of dropping my keys in a sewer grate. I have never done this before or met anyone who's ever had this happen, but it doesn't matter. I have a death grip on my car keys until they're safely in my pocket whenever I hop out of my truck. It's completely illogical, but I do it every time, and have since I started driving. Story 67, brush my teeth before getting dressed. My mom would always be like, "Why aren't you dressed yet?" But later on understood why. It doesn't take that long for me to get dressed, but having to change clothes if I get toothpaste on them does. I still do it 30 years later. Story 68, I don't have strict adherence and don't worry if I don't, but more often than not if I'm walking, I base my trajectory on Ender's Game. The enemy gate is down, gravity is forward, and I'm in free fall at walking speed. I can steer roughly 30-40 degrees left or right, and even video game style shoulder thrust, but anything further than that requires me to find a handhold to turn or a surface to bounce off of. To make it easier, I also pretend to have Spider-Man's web shooters to create my own anchor points. Yes, it's weird, but it turns walking into a puzzle I have to solve. Story 69. When brushing teeth, I have subdivided my teeth into multiple sections: front left back, top left back, left back, etc., etc. And when brushing each section, I count to 5 Mississippis while brushing in circular motions. Story 70. If I step on a sidewalk crack with my left foot, I have to step on the next crack with my right foot. Usually that just starts a nasty pattern where I have to keep alternating feet until I jump and touch one crack with both feet at the same time. Then I have to be careful not to start the process again by avoiding all cracks. Story 71. Always go upstairs on tiptoes. Always place my bed directly under a window. As a kid, I thought aliens were looking into my room at night, saw War of the Worlds way too young, and decided the best location to avoid being spotted was directly beneath the window itself. Always meow back at the cat when he meows at me. It's rude to ignore his greeting. Never take a bite of the same food twice. Always rotate around my plate, saving my favorite as the last bite so that is the flavor left in my mouth. Story 72. My dad taught me this because I can wake up to an alarm clock. Before going to sleep, think about what time you need to wake up in the morning. Guaranteed, you'll wake up 10 minutes before that time. Worked every time. Then I had kids and insomnia kicked in. Now I wake up 3 hours sooner, then 2 hours sooner, then 30 minutes sooner, and at that point, out of bed, lol. Story 73. If you finish another task in the kitchen before the microwave goes off, your wish will come true. I mean, I don't really believe it so much as an adult anymore, but I still find myself coming up with oddball stuff and racing back to the oven before end pops up on the screen. Keeps life interesting. Story 74. From my time as a volunteer firefighter, never empty your pockets until you're transferring stuff to new pockets. Example, when I take my pants off, they're ready to put right back on in a hurry if need be. That means my keys, wallet, knife, etc. are already in my pockets, and I don't have to go looking for them. I can jump out of bed, throw my pants on, grab my phone off the charger, and be good if I need to. Just have to throw a shirt on, and I keep shoes ready that I can just slip on. Story 75. Never touch the bottom of shampoo, conditioner, etc. bottles that sit in the shower. 247. Save your favorite food on the plate for last, so when you're done, the flavor of the best food still lingers in your mouth. When eating fruit snacks, I have to eat 2 at a time so I can chew one on each side of my mouth again, saving the best flavor for last. Wash hair, wash body, brush teeth, and then skincare. Let skincare marinate on face for an hour and then go to sleep. Story 76. If I want to watch a TV show that I've seen before, I can't just pick and choose a random episode. I have to watch the series from the very beginning right through to the end. Same with movies. Can't just watch a sequel in isolation. No idea why. And it is pretty time-consuming. Story 77. If I'm walking anywhere with people and there's a pole or stump in the way, we all must go on the same side of said pole or stump. When I was little, a homeless person told me it was bad luck to split at a pole when my sister and I did in front of him, and IDK why it scared me so much. But now at 35, even my kids are like, ugh, go back around the pole the other way before mom freaks. Story 78. Always have a map in the car. I think it's something that came from my dad, who still prints out directions for wherever he's going to go if he doesn't know the route. He made sure I had a map in my car when I went off to college, and I've never not had one in my car. I've only used the map maybe twice, and both times just for kicks. But a part of me really feels that if I was just relying on my phone to get places without having a backup map, that would be the day I run out of battery, run out of gas, and find myself in the middle of nowhere. For anyone curious, I currently have just a map of the northeastern U.S. because that's where I live, and usually where I'm traveling. But in the past, I've had maps and even travel books for other states I'm heading to, all just chilling in the back seat. Story 79. I didn't make it. My parents did. 4 crackers at a time, 2 cookies at a time. No more. That's the limit. Still doing it. Almost freaked when my little niece ate 7 cookies at once. Also, eat meat first and then everything else. Will still eat my burger before my fries, my chicken before potato. Story 80 or once bitten, twice shy. It's easy for me to give someone trust. However, once they say something to lose it, it doesn't come back. It's weird because it's not just FU. I get an uneasy feeling when I'm around them, regardless of the saying sorry or not. Story 81. If I don't capitalize the 3rd letter in my first name on anything personal of mine or giving to someone with care, it wasn't written on there by me. Plus, it made it more unique to me. I just had a hard time as a kid spelling my own name correctly, so my then kindergarten teacher made me practice spelling, and that one little exercise had me spelling my name correctly, but always uppercase the 3rd letter in my name until I reached middle school where I stopped, but it felt wrong. So personal items and gifts get that spelling. Bonus points if written in cursive, because I had to learn that dead skill right after spelling my name the right way. Story 82. If something is crappy on your birthday, like you have an awful test or it's daylight savings time, you can reclaim your birthday hours at a later good time. As long as it isn't taking away from someone else's thing, you can be like, let's go for ice cream. I want to use my birthday hour. Brought to you by a loved one who only got 23 hours of birthday one spring forward. I just think birthdays are so important to take the time to reflect on your growth in your life and appreciate people on their special day. Story 83, not really a rule, more of a habit. My ex shamed me for the amount of sweets I would eat, especially small things like Halloween candy. I started tying the wrappers in knots so they'd take up less space in the trash. Did this for years and now do it almost unconsciously. Any wrapper gets folded neatly and tied in a knot. When I moved in with my boyfriend, it amused him. He said if I was ever kidnapped or something, he'd be able to find me by following the trail of stealth bombers. He died a bit over a year ago. It's a habit, but now I tie them also so he can find me. Story 84. My last bite of a meal should be the best bite or the perfect bite. Like the bite with the most cheese on a sandwich, if I like one side dish more than the others, then that's the last bite. The crispiest French fry in the bag, etc. I sometimes don't follow it, but honestly, when I don't, it's more because I accidentally wolf down my food or I misjudge the best bite, haha. I've never done it to try and break my weird little rule. Story 85. My last bite of a meal should be the best bite or the perfect bite. Like the bite with the most cheese on a sandwich. If I liked one side dish more than the others, then that's the last bite. The crispiest French fry in the bag, etc. I sometimes don't follow it, but honestly, when I don't, it's more because I accidentally wolf down my food or I misjudge the best bite, haha. I've never done it to try and break my weird little rule. Story 86. I need to travel to at least one place I've never been to every year. I read a book as a teenager about a guy dying of cancer who wanted to visit all 50 states, and I was really inspired. I've done okay so far, obviously. Some years the funds just were not there, but for the most part I've done well. Story 87. When things feel out of place, I chew things evenly. Let's say I have 12 grapes. I'll start on the left side and eat one grape and then eat one on the right. I'll then eat one on the right side, then one on the left so it feels completely even. It's always been something I've done to make things feel fair since I was little. Story 88. When I was trying to get leaner, I decided to only eat between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. It helped and I still do it. I wake up at 6, have a coffee, and wait until 7 for eating. Not eating after 7 p.m. greatly helps against snacking and overeating in general. When I feel like eating, I look at the clock and just don't do it. I may get a little hungry and just accept the feeling. I seriously think it made me mentally stronger. Story 89, I have OCD, so I have a lot of these. One of my main ones is that I've counted every step I've taken since I was around 8. I'm 21 now. It's always in multiples of a number, and that number has changed a few times. It was 3, then briefly 5, then 2, and it's been 4 since I was around 12, and I don't anticipate it changing again, except possibly to 10 or 20, but that sounds like hell, and I will do my damnedest not to let that happen. LOL. Story 90, the rule of 3s. Everything comes in 3s, happens in 3s, starts and ends in 3s. If a person dies, expect 2 more. If you have a friend, might as well make a trio. couple slutty-friendly females, or a bro to help you tap her out. Make it a threesome. Story 91, I won't go near glass or screen doors or look out of them or the windows at night. That's when they get you. As a kid, I had awful recurring night terrors. Specifically, bad guys who had scunned my parents and were wearing them to try to coax me to the back door so they could get in. There was a lot of wrestling of wire doors, knowing that the door was unlocked, but if I went to unlock it, they would realize and get me. I'm sure Freud would have plenty to say about it. Story 92. Get up and do it for myself. When I was younger, it felt like my mother was always asking me to just run and grab me this, get your brother some water, run out to the car for me and grab something. In my brain, she was lazy 3 kids. She definitely wasn't, but she was overwhelmed and terrible at time management. But she's lost a lot of mobility as she's gotten older because she is too sedentary, which has just reinforced my belief that if I don't use it, I'll lose it. So I get up and do it my damn self. Hyper-independence of an oldest daughter may be a factor. E-kick low. Story 93. I don't always do this, but often when I'm walking, I count each new surface that I step on. Step on a crack, which leads to a new pad of concrete. 2. Crack, thin strip of concrete. Crack, new pad of concrete. 4. It's easy but gets tricky when I'm stepping on something with 6 new things. Sometimes I'll click my tongue instead of counting. Story 94. That I would flip the switch from the bottom to the top. My house often has double switches that turns on-off the same light, so I make sure that when the switch have turned off, they must be on the bottom side. Ever since I watched Inspector Gadget 2, where the detective turned on the light switch flipping from the bottom to the top, I kept that in mind ever since.